Hey everybody, Phil/Polygon here, welcome to episode 26, talking more Dark Souls 2 PvP, and this time around we are bell keeping, just us and a pair of knives, our trusty pair of knives. And I actually said pair of knives might as well be made of plastic and used at your next picnic for all of their effectiveness. I'll probably talk about that a little bit down the ways, not about your next picnic, but about putting together a challenge build in PvP, get a little bit of enjoyment out of it, maybe some stuff that I'm working on, some ideas that I had, because it's still pretty contentious regarding Dark Souls 2 PvP on whether it is better than the original or completely broken or just fine the way it is, complete trash. So I thought I'd explore some poison. That can't possibly come back and haunt me. So I thought I'd explore some thoughts around that and then elaborate on some stuff I threw out last time regarding soul memory and level caps and things like that, and probably some other random tomfoolery as well. Poison. All right. Intro song. Hooray! So as is customary, here's a quick look at my build out of the gate. I will say I don't like my thief's mask because it hides my fetching beard and mustache. I'm pretty excited about the facial hair in this game. I think that is just a treat. But otherwise, it is a very stock, very mid-game, mid-range build that I'm putting together. None of my gear is upgraded past 4, I guess, except for my main dagger, which is at 7. So I'm not min-maxing. I think I've got like 24-ish dexterity. So not a whole lot of damage output from these knives. I should point out that I put poison on the parrying dagger just to kind of goof around with that. And then I'm also messing around with the Leo ring, trying to maximize some of the pokiness of the daggers, the stabbity stabbity stab 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 element. That's an official term. And I will say I am baffled by the critical modifier. So maybe let me open this up with a question for you guys and ask, like, what is the difference between 110 and 150 in terms of, it's not like the attack rating where it's, well, 50 extra points. It has got to be like a logarithmic scale, like the Richter scale, because I'm hitting guys for 11, 28, maybe 40 if I'm lucky when I swipe them with my main +7 dagger, and when I crit them, it goes to 1100 plus. To go from 40 damage to 1100 on a critical, what the hell is going on there? Do you guys have any indication on how that scale actually works regarding the critical modifier? My knife has 150 versus 100, 110 is standard for most weapons, and my God. So I should also say, does it make you look for backstabs? Does it make you parry fish? Does it make you use that guard break all the time? You bet your ass it does, because when you're hitting somebody for double digits and then you crit them for 1,000, good Lord, daggers? So yeah, man, if you have any kind of insight on how this is put together, if you have some kind of rough formula that approximates the damage output on a critical based on your attack rating or something like that, please let me know. I've done no testing on it, and this is kind of my first foray into messing around with a high critical modifier weapon, and I am just left scratching my head and baffled and surprised every time. I mean, the rapier has a really high critical modifier, and it doesn't seem to get the kind of boost that this dagger does. So let me know. Who knows? I'm gonna move on because I got nothing. And speaking of having nothing, opportune segue. What am I doing with daggers at all then? I mentioned challenge builds at the top of the video, and I will say it is not my intention, or was not my intention, to put together a challenge build. I was not trying to go out with unoptimized gear and weaker weapons and pwn some noobs and prove myself and chest thump and all that kind of shit. I just was curious about the daggers. I had a dagger build in Dark Souls, which was a ton of fun, really fast and frenetic, and I thought, yeah, let's give it the time of day in this one. Dagger's the first thing you pick up in the game after it teaches you how to backstab back in Things Betwixt, and I just kind of wanted to play around with them. And for the most part, it's been a lot of fun. Quick PvE tangent. It's been a lot of fun except for one situation so far, and that was the Ruined Sentinel boss fight that I had to go through in order to get here. That took me so many tries, and I didn't take any summons with me, and I had burned through all of my resins, and let me tell you, two-fisting this knife against those Ruined Sentinels was a goddamn nightmare. I do not wish that upon my worst enemies. But I started thinking, okay, maybe I can take this out into PvE or PvP. I've got some things that I'm working on. Parry timings, for one. You'll see a lot of really ill-timed, really sloppy, really ugly parries coming out of me in this video. And I think that's because I still have my Dark Souls 1 parry timing. So in a lot of cases, I parry way too early and end up getting popped for it and punished for it. And I thought, all right, let's work on that a little bit. It'll force me to do that because the only significant damage I can do is with a successful critical. So that'll be a good sink or swim situation. And then I was just kind of curious about the knives. Like I said, I really like the pace of them. I was really curious to see how they power stanced. Still need a better term for that. When you dual wield them, you got a really cool, quick combo type thing. So it was more a curiosity than anything else, but now that I am out here in the PvP scene, or this mid-range PvP scene with this build, it's been fun, and it's been really punishing and really humbling, and I feel like I have improved significantly for doing it. And it reminds me a lot of kind of what I would do in Dark Souls. Oh, here comes Friendly Twink 3. Hey, buddy. In terms of picking up a weapon that I thought was just a trash weapon, just a really, really lousy piece of equipment to have on you. And I'd go out there and try and use it for a little bit and get proficient at it, just to be a little bit more well-rounded, to know how to face it when you come up against it in those rare situations. And I kind of, in the first couple of months of PvPing in this game, felt myself falling into a trap where I would put down weapons that I didn't like. I'd go out and have a couple fights with them, and if you just get destroyed, you'd say like, fuck this thing sucks. I'm going back to my falchion. I'm going back to my straight sword. I'm going back to whatever it is, whatever you're comfortable with. And for me, it was like that one-handed, quick swinging, straight sword, curved sword type thing. And now I'm trying to branch out a little bit just to try and, you know, milk a little bit more enjoyment out of the game, because I mentioned on the last one, it has been a fairly love-hate relationship, and I got a lot of great comments and feedback from you guys on that one. And I'm still trying to figure out what that is, what is actually going on. And there's times where I just hate the PvP in this game, and there's times where I actually think it's pretty cool. So I'm just trying to broaden the horizons a little bit. And I would say maybe do the same too before, if you're somebody that's written it off already, maybe go back and use something goofy, maybe put together a challenge build. I think Juutas just put out a fantastic little plea for people to do the same thing, and he said, coward, and he said, not Juutas, this guy, and he said, you know, challenge yourself, push yourself. I'll spare you parroting everything that was said in that video, just include a link to it, but if you haven't checked it out, go check it out. I found it pretty inspirational and pretty motivational to kind of get up off my ass a little bit and try some new stuff, explore a little bit further, and just try and take the game for what it is. I'm not saying I love it, I'm not defending it. I'm not saying Dark Souls 1 was better or not. I'm just saying I'm just trying some new stuff. I'm trying to figure this out with the rest of us. So if you have any thoughts on that, just in terms of maybe exploring a little bit and not taking out your primary build or doing challenge builds and things like that, let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking about that. And I'll move off it for real this time. And actually, that was kind of a lie. I'm not going to move off it altogether, but I'll transition a little bit into soul memory and soul levels, soul level caps, because that's something I've been thinking about, just kind of elaborating on some thoughts I put out last time. Gratuitous shout out to myself. And I think that you can tie all of those things together into just another way to challenge yourself. I think you can absolutely maintain your level cap of 150 and go out there and take on over-leveled players, or not over-leveled players, I guess, appropriately leveled players for the soul memory. And when you're 150, taking out guys at 500, 600, you know, the Havel butt face builds with all the hexes and all the weapons and all the affinities coming at you, that is a huge badge of honor, and that's just another way to push yourself and grow and develop. And I don't think, I'm probably not going to do that, at least for a while. Maybe I'll get some more experience under me and then go out and start doing that kind of thing. But I think for the most part, I am just going to keep remaking builds. I am just going to keep playing through PvE and PvPing along the way, and stopping at, you know, 130, 125, what I was talking about in the last video. And then when I get to a point when I have so many souls that I start getting matched up with guys at 300, 400, 500 and just getting destroyed, I'm probably just going to make a new build and start over again. And that sucks. That's something the game is kind of forcing me to do, just with the way that it's currently constructed. Soul memory is a very cold bucket of water to the face, but I think it's reality in the game. I think it's something that we just kind of have to accept, sadly or graciously, depending on how you look at it. And despite the petitions, despite community backlash and things like that, I think it's here to stay. I think it's just baked into the game. It's a terrible attempt. And so to deal with it, I'm just going to keep remaking my builds. I'm just going to keep replaying, staying at 150, and then when I just get obliterated down the way, I'll start the process over again, just like the cycle that we saw in Lordran, just like the cycle that we're seeing play out in Drang Lake. Imposter, imposter. That wasn't a real peeve. So my interest is actually really piqued to hear what you guys are thinking you're going to do to deal with soul memory and level caps and all that kind of jazz too. I'm sorry, I keep asking you guys questions. That's not a great handling of the medium, me. But I'm wondering, are you going to stick at a certain level cap and just take it, come what may? You might be fighting all the overleveled players in the world when you hit your 15 million soul memory mark, or way before then too, if you're sticking at like 120 or even 150. Or are you going to take maybe my approach where you just kind of re-roll your characters, you start from scratch every now and again? I'm okay to do that, I will say, because I do have fun playing through PvE. Even though a lot of the bosses are really repetitive and kind of a drag, I feel like I get better every time I make a PvE playthrough with a different weapon or something like that. I feel like I'm still learning things. I can still have fun doing that, but I understand that a lot of people can't, and that is just a huge artificial hurdle placed in front of all of us in the PvP community with this soul memory thing. So let me know what you guys are going to do about that, or if you have just some like crack shot plan that is just brilliance. Maybe I'm just overlooking something obvious. Okay, so after a quick glance at my notes, I apparently wanted to talk about poise too. So let's talk poise for just a second. And I think this is appropriate with this dagger setup. In a second. Pause. Sorry to interrupt. I remember this part very distinctly. Watch my cloth here on the steps. Where the fuck did that guy come from? I'm going to play this back in slow motion and thank this improved netcode, because clearly that guy is not on the steps. Clearly that guy is not down there. Yet some magical gust of wind activates my cloth physics and I get popped by a soul arrow by this guy who's miraculously now standing right there. Where did he come from? Thanks, lag. Anyways, back to poise. So it's a pretty common story. I hear a lot of people saying, you know, I got staggered in full Havels by a dude with a dagger. I gotta say that as a dude rocking a dagger, I am not staggering anybody. At least not where it counts. And I think poise, so despite criticisms that it's just completely and utterly broken, I don't know that it is. And I think a lot of the mysteries and a lot of the complaints around poise tie back to that shitty netcode, those terrible, laggy, phantom range laden connections that we are all hooking up via. Because I think, at least in my exploration and just some stuff I've gleaned from the community, poise works like hyper armor. If you get hit flat-footed, regardless of what it's by, a throwing knife, a dagger, a demon's great hammer, you will get staggered, period. Poise actually gives you hyper armor so that when you're swinging a weapon, you don't get interrupted from your attack animation. And please, 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 correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that's how it works. So when you're using heavier weapons with no poise, you get interrupted all over the place. And when you have poise, you can actually complete the attack animation and trade hits with the guy. I'm running into that a lot, where I can't stagger people that are swinging at me with my quicker attack animations. And so we end up trading hits, and as you saw, like when I'm hitting guys for 20 points of damage and they're hitting me with something that's not a dagger with more than 20 points of damage, it's a terrible trade. This guy has absolutely no poise, and I am able to stagger him. Where conversely in that last fight against the host and his phantom, that phantom had poise. That phantom was able to power through my little dagger swipes and hit me on the receiving end with his significantly more powerful blows, because of course he was not rocking a dagger. This is not a dagger hate story, but I do wonder if a lot of the perception around broken poise and a lot of the critiques around poise are not tied back into these terrible, terrible laggy connections where phantom range is out of damn control. It has poise implications. It has mechanic implications. That was ridiculous tracking on that fairy, by the way. And it all comes back to this client-side hit detection thing, which they implemented in Dark Souls 2 for PvP. I'm not going to get into that in depth. I could probably do an entire episode on that. Maybe I will follow up in future conversations. But basically, your connection, your end of the connection can be told you got hit before you started swinging, even though on your end, you already started swinging. And that'll register, and that'll interrupt you from your swing because of just lag, because of crappy netcode. And I can't help but wonder if maybe poise does work, because it seems to be a significantly bigger issue in PvP than in PvE. And like I said, you will get staggered if you aren't doing anything and get hit. If you get sneezed on when you're standing still, you will stagger. And poise only seems to come into play during attack animations for the hyper armor thing. So I don't know, maybe it's a connection problem. Maybe it's not as bad as we think. Let me know. Let me know. And again, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm almost certainly wrong. But on that point, I am going to cap it. I don't know. I got nothing else. So thanks as always for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all the feedback and comments and conversation. You guys are awesome. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Let me know what you think. And feedback is always welcome, always appreciated. I had to catch myself there. I almost took a cheap shot and said, unlike on some other channels, but I won't. I will be the bigger man. I will be the bigger man with the smaller knife and call it a day. I will catch you guys next time. Bye.